Hi, my name is James Shepard, and today I want to talk to you about competing with Square on price. I know what you're all thinking. James, you're crazy. You can't compete with Square on price. What are you talking about? They have this flat rate thing. It's really simple. Well, here is the good news for all of you out there that are trying to compete with Square this year. As I talked about in my 2018 predictions, I think Square is becoming a more serious threat. The good news for you is that Square, in my opinion, is really fumbling the ball when it comes to their pricing because they're making it more complicated. Now, from a profitability perspective, they're probably doing the right thing. I mean, they did need to start making some adjustments, but the good news for you is it's getting more complicated and it's to the point where you can really compete with people. So when you walk into a business right now, you might think to yourself, oh, well, you know, it's Square. They're paying 2.75%. It's flat rate. Everything's golden. No, you are incorrect. There are a couple of things that can change this so that they actually are not paying the 2.75%. And so I want to talk to you about that a little bit today and how you can compete with them on price. So I have right now I have Square pricing pulled up right here. So I want to talk to you about a couple of things about Square that you can compete with them on price. The first thing you can compete with is the fact that while it is 2.75% to accept all the major credit cards on a traditional Square swiper, it is now 2.5% plus 10 cents if it is tapped, inserted, or swiped with the Square Register, okay? So Square Register is like their point of sale product that they have available. You can put it in the Square Stand and has some different things like that, but it's running it off of the Square Register, which is, you know, a special point of sale system that Square has created. And so one of the ways that they're making additional money is that they dropped off those 25 basis points and instead they added in 10 cents. Well, that 10 cents is going to make a massive difference for a lot of these places that use Square. Like, you know, yesterday I went into a place to get Chinese food and they were using Square Register. And, you know, when I went in there, they probably think that they're paying 2.75%. They probably never even look at their bill. In fact, they're not. They're paying 2.5% plus 10 cents, which is a lot worse when you have a small ticket size. So the first thing you need to understand is that Square, and I'll talk more in a second about how to compete with them in terms of the pitch, but the idea is they're not as simple as they used to be, okay? So 2.5% plus 10 cents. Next, did you realize that when they have a keyed in card transaction, it's 3.5% and 15 cents. 3.5% and 15 cents. Now that's a lot. That's really a lot. For a key transaction, that's a ton. Keep in mind, a lot of key transactions today are still regulated. You know, a lot of the regulated check card transactions, things like that, where that's still only 22 cents and 5 basis points, and they're charging 3.5% and 15 cents. So for a merchant that's keying in a lot of transactions, again, what you're fighting here is this perception of, well, I use Square and I pay 2.75% for everything. No, you don't, okay? That's a really, really important thing, okay? One other thing, and then I'm going to talk to you about how to overcome this. So one other thing that I think is super important is that the instant deposit, okay? The merchant can get this thing called instant deposit for 1%. So let me explain this for a second because some of you may not have heard of this technology yet. I should have made this one of my predictions because you're going to see this probably by, it'll probably be early 2019 actually before this is mainstream. But what you're going to see is instead of next day funding, you're going to see same day funding, okay? Same day funding works in a very interesting way. So basically the idea is that a bank can transfer money to another bank card for certain banks instantly instead of taking you know, a whole day for it to be available funds. So Square jumped in and took advantage of this technology early, which I think was really smart. If you're a processor watching this right now, you have your own backend or something, you need to jump on this right now because I promise you it's going to be a major competitive advantage or disadvantage if you wait too long for a lot of different things, from everything from merchant cash advances to, you know, funding on merchant accounts, you know, split funding, a lot of different things. But the idea is you can do an instant thing. Well, you know, it doesn't really cost that much. I mean, there is a small extra cost to doing it, you know, but for somebody like Square that's doing millions and millions of dollars a day, probably tens of millions of dollars a day, it's not really a big cost for them. But what they do is they charge an extra 1%, 100 basis points. Can you imagine that? 100 basis points. So some of you out there right now that have your own backend, you're an executive at a processor or something, if you are not already jumping on this and saying, hey, you know, Square has it for 100 basis points, they'll transfer your money same day, we do it for 25 basis points. right? Think how much money you would make on that deal if you were making 25 basis points on all your volume. That's ridiculous. It's a lot of money. You could add Schedule A costs in there because there are some costs. So just something to keep in mind though when you're competing with Square is that if they're getting that instant deposit, they're paying an extra 1%. So how do you actually compete with Square based on all this stuff I just told you, right? A couple things that you need to do. Number one, you need to go into the merchant and you need to start by casting some doubt. Casting some doubt. Square is impenetrable right now because in the mind of the merchant, they have this simple billing system that the merchant doesn't ever need to check on, right? The merchant's like, I'm with Square. I pay 2.75%. Why would I need to look at my bill? Why would I need to look at my merchant statement? Well, guess what? If you actually looked at their merchant statement today, there's a lot of merchants that are not paying 2.75% on Square. There's a lot of pizza shops that are doing 20% of their business as key entered, and on that 20%, they're paying 3.5% and 15 cents, right? There's a lot of people that are using Square Register, and they're paying 2.5% and 10 cents, and they're paying 3.5% and 15 cents on the key transactions. So my point is, number one, or maybe they even have that 1%, maybe they signed up. I mean, do you realize Square is pushing people towards this instant deposit thing? Why? Because they're making 100 basis points, right? So maybe throughout the process of managing their account, they either accidentally or on purpose signed up for this instant deposit. So now you look at it and you're like, you're paying 4% effective rate on Square. They told you 2.75% flat. Guess what? It's not. And so you can legitimately go to many merchants. I would say as many as 20% or 30% of merchants that are actually with a physical location out in the field. You could go to them and show them that they're not actually paying 2.75%. Now, of course, Square makes it rather difficult to actually see your bill and all that. You do have to log in online. There's no paper statement. But you need to talk to the merchant. Start by casting some doubt and saying, look, here's the deal. If Square is really charging you 2.75% flat and nothing else, and I'm wrong, that's fine, but here's what I would ask you to do. Can you at least just take a look at your statement? Let me come back tomorrow and just pull up a copy of it online and let's take a look at it. And maybe I'm wrong because they do have some merchants that are on that, but I think for your particular merchant type, because you've got the Square Register and because you said you're doing some key transactions and you mentioned how you get those deposits right away, you could be paying 3, 4, 5% for your transactions. We need to take a look at this, right? So cast some doubt on Square, and that's really, really going to help you to compete against them. One of the other things that you can do to compete with Square, we're going to talk about in the next video, which is understanding these specific verticals and then attacking Square when we're going after specific verticals. So hopefully this will help you out. Make sure you're familiar with Square pricing so you can talk about that when you're out in the field with people who currently have Square. One other thing to keep in mind when you're competing with Square on price is a website that maybe you've heard of before. I'm not sure. It's called InstantQuoteTool.com. InstantQuoteTool.com. And you say, James, what does that have to do with anything? Well, there's a couple really important things. First of all, when we get to February 5th, 2018, we're going to be rolling out our new version of the Instant Quote Tool in beta. And in that version, I'm going to have some specific things in there to help you understand Square pricing. And you're going to have some things that you can change. For instance, if you talk to the merchant and find out that they do 20% key entered, you can change that number in there with interchange, and then you can show them exactly what it would be to compete against Square. So I'm working on some really cool stuff where I actually want to have something in there that's just for a compete with Square like calculator thing. So we're going to work on that. We're going to probably have that around March 1st, something like that. But I really want to work on having that in there. And so the idea though that's great about it is, even if they don't have their statement, you can ask them, how much did you pay last month for your Square processing? I paid $380 and I processed 10,000 in volume. Well, you paid 3.8%. Here's what we can do for you. So having the new system, the new one's going to be so cool because it's going to have like a marketing app you can use with it on your phone. Just some really cool stuff. So make sure you stay tuned. Go to InstantQuoteTool.com. Sign up right now to get familiar with the process with the free 30-day trial. And then come February 5th, we're going to have some really cool stuff for you to take a look at. My name is James Shepard. Thanks for watching and listening.